Hi everyone, it's Rhonda and I'm here for our almost live stream discussion on salary negotiations. And so one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is because people can lose sometimes thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars by not planning for your salary negotiations up front and instead wait until they actually receive the job offer. By that time, it's too late. And why is this? Because negotiating effectively is about understanding leverage. So this information is coming from my colleague and amazing career coach, Karen Chopra, who's the author of Coaching Career Clients on Salary and Other Workplace Negotiations. So job seekers have the most leverage, which means the biggest potential from getting the most from the least amount of effort. That's what leverage is. Once the employer has made a decision and given you a job offer. And this is because they have already invested a lot of time in you. They recognize your value. And if you walked away, they would have to go back to the drawing board. So to take advantage of this leverage, you've got to prepare. So you need to know the market rate for the job that you want in the city that you want to live in, because it's going to differ from city to city and country to country. So you can find this information on payscale.com, salary.com, and Career One Stop, as well as other salary calculators that you can Google. If the organization is big enough, you might even be able to find salary information on glassdoor.com. And in order to get that information, you do need to create an account and share information about your past and your past salaries. But this is definitely worth it because there's a ton of great information, not only on salaries, but also on interviews, the kinds of questions that they ask, how they structure them, and company reviews as well. The other thing is to take time to talk to some of your design partners that you've been cultivating throughout this career design process. So you don't have to ask specifically for their salary information, but more along the lines of what kind of salary can I expect at this particular organization or in this particular location. And so just let them know that you're doing your research for salary negotiations, and if they can give you a decent range for what you're wanting to do. So then the next part of salary negotiations is to minimize the salary information that your organization or your future employer has about you. So this also helps you to maximize your leverage. Of course, they know that too. So they often are looking for ways to understand your salary information. And so often during the interview, they will ask you, what are your salary expectations or your previous salary history? They might even require that in your cover letter or in the job application process. And so that's one of the reasons why you really need to do your research even before you apply for jobs. So if a question comes up in an interview, you can say something along the lines of, well, once right now I'm still learning about the position, and once I have some more information, I'll be happy to discuss salary with you. And if you are a fairly upfront person, you can even say my salary history is personal, and they don't have any legal requirements to get that information from you. Again, they're looking for it so that they can maximize their leverage. And so I find, my salary history is personal and I prefer to keep it private to be, be a little bit more heavy-handed than some kinds of salary negotiations, especially in kind of the nonprofit fields. But just to know that this is information that you can keep to yourself, have a strategy for how to answer that specific question. What are your salary negotiations? And the thing is that what they're really asking is, can we afford you? And so you want to be able to answer that question without giving them more information. And so you could say something like, I'm sure if everything falls into place, salary won't be an issue. I'm flexible. Based on my research, I'm confident that we will come to an agreement. And then you want to be able to subtly move the interview back to a place where you're not giving them information that gives them leverage. And so you basically, the best way of doing this is to ask them a question. So if I take this job and have an outstanding first year, what will I have accomplished? How is performance evaluated in this organization? Where do you see this organization heading in 5 years? And what would you say is this organization's greatest strengths? So something like that, just kind of like with a toddler where you dangle some keys to keep them from putting like poison in their mouth. Maybe not the best metaphor, but that's really what you're going for. Like, oh, here's something. And when you ask questions, the socially appropriate responses to answer them. So when you're trying to change the subject, asking questions is a good way of doing this. So Karen Chopra calls this the salary negotiation 3-step. So first of all, you decline to give a number. Then you answer the unasked question, can we afford you? And then you change the direction to something where you're not giving out information. So for a lot of nonprofit and government and international development types of positions, often there is a very narrow budget range. And so, so they do want to know if you're expecting something way above what they can afford, then you're not going to be a good fit for them. And so sometimes they do insist, and they'll ask for putting your salary expectations or a salary history in the cover letter. And in that case, you do want to give them a response. And so whether it's in the cover letter or in the interview, if they keep coming back to what are your expectations, then you can give them a response, something like, based on my research, the salary range for this position is between $60,000 and $90,000 a year. Given the amount of experience I have in the field, I was expecting to come in closer to the top of that range. And so you can, again, use that in an interview or cover letter, and you can add the words negotiable based on responsibilities. So that shows that you've done your research, that you are asking for something that is within their budget, and that there's room for flexibility. So if you're higher than what they're looking for, then they're not going to just set you aside and not work with you, because be like, all right, this is a great candidate. It's flexible on salary. So let's go forward with the interview process. And that way you're really setting yourself up for a very good negotiating position once you get the job offer. So if you are doing an online job application where it gives you a text that is required, then you could answer in several different ways. If they allow text, you can put in negotiable. If you could also put in a salary range versus single figure. You can, if you are really confident that you can provide one figure, like if they don't allow a range, but only numerical values, then you can put that in. Karen Chopra recommends that you just type in 0 if only numbers are allowed. And that is not going to indicate to them that you are proposing to work for free. That is just a way for you to keep going forward without giving more information than you want them to have. So that's basically the premise. And what you're really looking for is a way to go forward with the interview process that is not going to minimize your leverage, but also not going to get you knocked out of the running because you're too high. And if you do put in something and later you realize, ooh, that was a little bit too low, you can always negotiate for a higher salary later. You can say, now that I have more information about the job requirements, my research is really indicating that I should be closer to blah, blah, blah. So, so the goal is to not give a number. If you have to give a number, give one that'll let you keep going forward and knowing that you can renegotiate later, although that's not the ideal. Okay, so what happens when you get the job offer? So you certainly want to let them know that you're interested. You don't have to have a poker face here. But you also don't want to accept the offer on the spot. So ask for the terms and benefits to be sent to you in writing, whether that's in the mail or just over in an email message. And so when you're reviewing the job offer, I want you to think through the following. So if the offered salary is in your range, prepare yourself to ask for more. You don't want to leave money on the table if there's flexibility in the budget, and the job offer will not be rescinded just by you asking for more. So when you get the job offer, this is when your leverage is the highest. That's what you can say is, although previously we discussed this number, thank you so much for the offer. But now that I know more about the job and what I will bring to it, such as A, B, C, and D, I realize that, that my worth is closer to X. Okay, so just think about that. You also might want to look for other things to negotiate, whether that's telecommuting or a flexible schedule or a title or leave policy. So this is another reason why the career design process is important, so that you understand what you really want to feel valued, and that it's supporting the kind of life that you want. For some people, that's money. For some people, that's flexibility. For some people, that's job titles. So be clear about that, because now, again, once you get the job offer, this is the time to ask for what you want. And so you also, so here's a little bit negotiating, I would call this intermediate negotiation skills. And that is to get people to start saying yes to things. So you might want to start with some easy things to ask for, just to get them saying yes, so that you're priming them for the bigger ask. So you might want to start with, you recommended this is a start date. Could I start 3 days later, for example? Or I'd like to hear if there are any options for continuing education reimbursements. So those are some things to just be thinking about as you're reading their job offer. So then I want you to write up your negotiating strategy and your talking points. So generally, well, these days, a lot of these conversations are going to be done over Zoom or phone or sometimes email. And so it's really useful to kind of practice saying these things out loud. So write up what you want, practice saying them. If possible, do that with another person so that you can get their responses and feedback. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll be, and the more effective you'll be in looking out for yourself. You also want to know what your deal breakers are and where you're flexible. So if they're offering something that you know that you can't live on, then own that and walk away if they do not budge. You do not want to set yourself up to be in a position, to be in a job that does not cover your basic needs. And but you also want to know where you're flexible so that you might give a little in this area to gain a little bit more in another. It's also really important to get comfortable with silence. And so when you're negotiating for salary, and it's really tempting to start negotiating for them and against yourself. So for example, if you say, I'm hoping for a salary around $150,000, and just let that sit instead of saying, although I would be fine with 130 if that's better for you. So, so after you've made your request, expect them to respond with either a yes or a no, or let me check on that. You do not want to respond for them. And so one way to ask for some more, for a higher salary would be to just kind of probe discreetly. Is there any flexibility with the salary? Or you could also be more direct and say, I was somewhat disappointed with the salary number. Based on my experience and history, I was hoping for 165K, and then be silent and wait for their response. If they're hesitating, they're probably trying to figure out if they can meet your request. Let them figure it out. If they can't meet the figure, ask them how close they can get. Keep asking for what you want, big and small. Get the final offer in writing. You can also suggest that you email them your understanding of the offer and that they can review it. And then express your gratitude for their flexibility. Salary negotiations is the beginning of your setting up your future relationship with the organization, with your boss. You want to be respectful and you want to advocate for yourself. And so by doing all the work that you do in my career design studio, you are miles ahead of most people. You know what's important to you. You know the things that you would love, but that you're flexible on. You know what your have to haves are. These are all the things that are super useful in negotiating your salary. So you've worked really hard to figure out what you want. The job offer, that's when you ask for it. So that is kind of the overview of the salary negotiation process. And I just want to spend a little bit of time talking a little bit more about how you do some of the research. And so I'm just going to go through what I want to do is share my screen. And first of all, just to show you in my career design studio where you can find some tools to help with this. So if you go to my career creation tools, you will get my salary negotiation preparation. You'll notice that is before my interview prep, because I do want you to be doing this work before you do your interviews. And so this is where you can keep your range, your notes for the different kinds of jobs that you're applying for. And if you are looking for some reminders of this overview, you can go into the My Career Coach avatar, and this set of instructions gives you pretty much what I just walked you through. So let's look at just a couple of salary calculators. And so PayScale is one website that I really like to go to. So if you go here for you, go by job title, and let us just put in program manager. And let's say, so again, what they are doing is looking for job titles that they've got salary information from. So, so if you try something like gender specialist, you're not gonna get that. So that might be fairly common in international development, but that is not gonna be something that an organization, a website like PayScale or salary.com can help you with. That's when you want to go to Glassdoor if the organization is big enough. But the thing that Glassdoor doesn't give you is, so search for salaries. So what you'll be able to do, okay, I do not want a report here. Or maybe I do. Yes, actually, this is what I want. So you can start with just exploring. I'm an individual, and so this, we go back to program manager, nonprofit organization. Then this allows you to put in things. This is where Glassdoor is not going to help you. You can say, all right, I've got 15 years in that, and I'm in Washington, D.C. And then it'll ask you things like, okay, what do you have special skills in? So you can put in budget management, event planning, and leadership. What area do you expect to sell to? I don't know why this question's here. And so then you can say, yes, I speak a foreign language, I speak Spanish, and budget managed has been $100,000 a year. Let's put in $1 million. And so PayScale, again, just gives you a lot of different ways of thinking about your worth. And so we've got this at a nonprofit organization. And you don't have to put everything in. It's not publicly held, just the things that are asterisk. And then your highest degree, let's say that is a master's, and that's all you want to say about that. And next. And so then this is going to give you I already have an account. All right. So then this is going to give you a, oh, I did not plan for this. Anyways, I'm not going to check my email and go through this, but it gives you a variety of ranges here where you can take a look and see what's the average, what's high, and so that you can really negotiate for what you're worth. Okay. Salary.com is, and basically it's similar. So let's put in program manager at a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. And it's just really useful to look at several different sources so that you can find the data that is that's just better for you. And so, for example, this program manager nonprofit was a little bit higher than this one. So what do you want to, is 53,000 what you want to use, or 98,000 when you're negotiating? Obviously the 98,000. So basically when you're doing your research online, these are some really good ways of doing that. Okay, I hope that this was helpful. And if you've got any specific questions about any salary negotiations or job negotiations that you want to be thinking about now, please leave a comment and we'll get back to you. So again, hopefully I'll be able to do, actually get the live stream issue fixed. But in the meantime, I hope that this is helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you about what are some other areas where I can provide some guidance in helping you create the future that you want. And so happy career designing, and I will see you all next week.